Hello, all of you. Good morning. Am I audible to all?
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Good morning and welcome all of you to this today's seminar on climate change communication through community science centers as a part of the series of the webinars on climate change and its related activities. Before I request our director and then the principal secretary to welcome and then give the special address, I would like to mention here that this series of climate change webinar is an inspiration of our principal secretary, who is the ardent supporter and a strong supporter of the climate change and its related activities. This subject is very close to his heart, and therefore it was his brainchild that this series of webinars should be conducted to create awareness amongst the masses towards the importance of the climate change and how those can be tackled. Along with him, we have our director, Shri Bijay Shah sir, Mukesh Shah sir, Joint Secretary, Mr. Parmar from the Climate Change Department, who are also supporting this cause for development of climate change activities.
Esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, let me tell all of you that tomorrow we are going to celebrate our Independence Day, 15th August. So for tomorrow, 15th August, Independence Day greetings to all of you. As all of you are aware, Climate Change Department, Government of Gujarat is organizing this webinar series, and it's a series of 8 webinars by different domain experts hailing from important organizations. And we have named the series Climate Change and COVID-19. This happens to be the 5th webinar in the series. Let me also hasten to put it on record that the inspiration behind the Climate Change Department comes from our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, who way back in September 2009, when he was Honorable Chief Minister here in the state of Gujarat, set up this Climate Change Department exclusively devoted to the cause of addressing the concerns of climate change. And the rich legacy bequeathed by him is being very effectively taken forward by our Honorable Chief Minister, Shri Vijay Rupani. Today, Shri Narottam Sahu, Member Secretary of Gujarat Council of Science and Technology, Department of Science and Technology, will be speaking on the topic of climate change communications in Gujarat through Community Science Center. When I was Secretary, Department of Science and Technology from 2013 to 2015, I had a great opportunity of working with Shri Narottam Sahu. He has always stood out as an outstanding officer, very dedicated, committed, and I always remember him with a whole lot of fondness. And in fact, we keep interacting also once in a while. We are thankful to Shri Sahu for sparing his valuable time today, and he would be sharing his insight on this important subject of community participation and communication, which is essentially very relevant in the context of climate change, because time and again, all of us have been harping on this aspect of sensitization of the masses and spreading of general awareness, which is very important. Because something which is so Herculean as handling the challenges arising out of climate change can only be handled with the support of each and every member of the society. Short of that, it would be very difficult for us to effectively address the concerns of climate change. And in that context, proper dissemination, sensitization, percolation of the ideas relating to climate change, how very important or urgent or critical it is, how very relevant it is in our contemporary context. These things always need to be driven home very effectively to the rank and the file, to everybody, to all amongst us. So in that context, today's deliberations would be extremely relevant and meaningful. Climate change, as you know, is not exactly a recent phenomenon, but of late we have been observing the impact of climate change in a rather more perceptible fashion. Earlier we had that sort of a delusion, if I may use that expression, that it is something which is going to happen very slowly and perhaps it wouldn't affect us. But of late, over the last maybe 5 to 10 years, the changes precipitated by climate change have been so significant and telling that they have made us sit up. So in that context, climate change becomes very relevant. The impact of climate change, as all of us know, happens to be cutting across various sectors as diverse as water resources and agriculture, animal husbandry and forest, biodiversity and economy, and so on and so forth. In our state, since it happens to have a large coastline and even otherwise, there are a number of communities which happen to be quite vulnerable in the context of climate change. So sensitizing them, heightening general awareness amongst them, essentially would be a step one towards preparing them and equipping them to combat the challenges arising out of climate change in a meaningful fashion. Our department has been working relentlessly in this direction through various modes of mass communication. We have been disseminating information to people and trying to educate them about the science of climate change and also in respect of mitigation and adaptation. We acknowledge the Institute of Climate Change Research, the Maharaja Saji Rao University of Baroda, and World Resources Institute, who have been associated for this webinar series as knowledge partners. And I shall be failing in my duty if I don't mention about the important role which is being played by institutions like the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, Indian Institute of Technology, Gandhinagar, Sakal Chand Patel University, Dhirubhai Ambani Institute of Information and Communication Technology, and a whole lot of other institutes, which even though I don't have the time to mention all of them, have gone on and have been playing a very significant role, and they have been supporting the climate change department. With these words, once again, I thank all of you for your active participation in this webinar series. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Secretary, sir, for your opening remarks. As rightly said by our Principal Secretary, that climate change is one of the biggest challenges of our times. And therefore, climate change education and communication is the key to addressing all these issues. Of course, climate education could be formal and informal. Informal through science cities, science eco clubs, community centers, museums, etc. And therefore, today's both the lecturers or both the stalwarts that we have today to address all of you, Dr. Narottam Sahu and Ms. Jnanada Deshpande, are the right persons to talk on the communication skills and education of climate change. And this informal education provides and it engage, educate, and empower people of all ages, which is the need of the time. With these words, may I first request Dr. Narottam Sahu, the Member Secretary, Gujarat Council of Science and Technology, to share his thought on the climate change communication in Gujarat through community science centers. Dr. Sahu, the screen is yours. Dr. Sahu, please.
Sure. Good afternoon to everybody. respected Principal Secretary, Sri L.J. Haidar sir, Principal Secretary, Climate Change Department, Gujarat, respected Sri Bijal Shah sir, Director JEDA, all the faculties, the speakers from the WRI, Dr. Deshpande Madam, all the panelists, all the members of the Climate Change Department, all our colleagues from Gujarat's Council on Science and Technology, Guj Coast and Science City, and all our community science center coordinators in different districts of the state, and all interested and climate friendly participants. On the outskirts, on behalf of Gujarat Council on Science City, Council of Science and Technology, and the Department of Science and Technology, Government of Gujarat, I once again welcome all of you to this webinar series, which has been very timely organized by the visionary action plans of our Principal Secretary, Sri L.J. Haidar sir, at the Department of Climate Change, Government of Gujarat. As we are all are going through a very difficult situation, COVID-19 pandemic situations, our schools are closed, our colleges are stopped, our curriculum has also disturbed, but still we are experiencing the same experiences of climate change, nature's activities, and in addition to this devastations, COVID-19 pandemic. But still, as we are going through the other time, this climate change is a great challenge for science, for everybody, for community, for citizen, everybody. So in this context, I thank the Climate Change Department, the Principal Secretary, sir, all the faculties, all the officials of the Climate Change Department for their timely arrangement for this program. I am also thankful to department for giving us a slot in this webinar series to discuss about the role and responsibility of communications in climate change, which is meant for children, community members at large who are very vulnerable during this situation. So with this word, I thanks everybody, and I would like to take you to journey of this climate change communication activity in our state through the main coordinators in every district headquarters community science centers. Right.
Yes, sir. Now your screen is visible.
So before going to discuss about the science of climate change communications across the children and community, I would like to give a brief introduction of Guj Coast, which is a very 30 years of old organization set up by Department of Science and Technology, Government of India at that time, which was worked as a cell in September 1986, and it was registered as a institution under the Department of Science and Technology in 2000. And since then, Guj Coast is working on the three basic fronts. In the main front is communication of science and technology, that is popularization of science through different community science centers, establishing the regional science museums, organizing science outreach programs in different themes, different areas, different target audience, supporting seminars, symposia, workshops, training workshops on the frontier areas of science, technology, climate change, global warming, organizations of science quiz, science seminars in a regular basis, and RoboFest competition in the front end of science and technology. The second aspect of our activities is related to promotion of research and development, where we have the privilege of implementation of state Science, Technology, Innovation Policy of Gujarat, providing research support in the state and national priority areas of science and technology for societal development. The State Inspire program for students science tech projects, and award of Dr. Bikram Sarabhai Award to eminent scientists for their lifelong contribution. Establishment of a city knowledge innovation cluster with Government of India. It's a very new concept of collaborating every institution in a city or cluster for the common goal. And with that, we are creating lots of intellectual property right and that innovations. And we have a patent information center in Guj Coast, which is taking care of promotion and popularization of IPR culture in the state among different stakeholders, and innovations and creativity with the Atal Innovation Mission under Niti Aayog, WIPO, TISC, TIFAC, etc. So basically, from science education to science research promotion, along with the IPR, these are the major activities of Guj Coast, on which we are creating a future of scientific leaders through the formal and informal mode of communications. We have a very flagship programs, very significant and important flagship programs of the state and the nation, where thousands of students, teachers are participating. So that includes National Children's Science Congress in every year, celebration of scientific days, week, months, and years on different themes, different topics, emerging areas, National Science Seminar for school students, Science and Mathematics Exhibition, Rural IT Quiz, Science Demonstrations, Science Drama Competitions, Astronomy, Space Science Activities, Teacher Training Programs, Science Olympiads, and STEM engagement. In fact, most of the programs have taken a very peak during Sri S.J. Haidar sir's time when he was our secretary, our Department of Science and Technology, Government of Gujarat, who has given a new dimension to the science promotion and popularization activities, both at Science City as community science centers in the states. So this creates lots of resource materials, very informal and very exciting posters, activities modules, training materials, worksheets, booklet, leaflet in the themes, which we also both go on physical as well as the digital mode. The second part of the activity, like involvement of community in the science missions. So like taking climate change science to the people and people to the climate change science, because it is all climate change is not only a single subject and it is not a single directional object, so that it can't be go through one direction. So it involves lots of department, lots of discipline, lots of stakeholders. So we take that privilege with the climate change department, Government of Gujarat, the Department of Science and Technology, Science City and Community Science Center, and with the Gujarat Energy Development Agency, JEDA, we have Community Science Center for children and community members, for which the flagship program is board program, Bal Urja Rakshak Dal. This is a very engaging and a very exciting activities for students to learn on different aspects of energy conservation as well as the climate change activities. In addition to that, we have citizen science programs for the elderly peoples, for the farmers, for the artisans, for the technical persons, the trainings on skills development and entrepreneurships for different stakeholders, water conservation and water harvesting, because water is also important component of the climate change, use of alternative energy and energy conservation through board program like JEDA and some other training and awareness programs for the adult education for the adult peoples. Then hands-on trainings on a digital technology, how we have to reduce our dependency on the natures and environment and ecosystem. Then awareness and orientations on a disaster management, programs for rural women, farmers and artisans. So these are the programs that basically dedicated to the community, in which we called justified our centers like Community Science Center as a Lok Vigyan Kendra. So in that platform, we have the community members, we have the community citizens, and the citizen science programs. So with this, with the support, with the great support of national government as well as the state government, we have good infrastructure in the state. In fact, unique infrastructure in the state, in the country, like Gujarat Science City, which is a very international benchmarked science education platform for the country and for the children and the community, common people. Now the government of Gujarat with the DST Guj Coast, we are developing 4 regional science museums at Rajkot, Bhuj, Patan, Bhavnagar, which is in a very advanced stages of completion. I'll go through that one also. We have a privilege to have 33 district community science centers, that Lok Vigyan Kendra in district headquarters of our 33 districts. More than 3,000 plus Guj Coast science clubs in schools, out of which 60% of the clubs are working in the rural areas and in the government schools. So they are also very active with this type of activities. And we have with Niti Aayog Atal Tinkering Labs, about 450 Atal Tinkering Labs, very effectively and very innovatively they are working in every district, every school. So these are the uniqueness of Gujarat. Having every district, there is a community science center, there is so many science clubs, science teachers, active science teachers, principals, science trust, science ambassadors. In addition to that, we have Atal Tinkering Lab, design labs, and a lot of things going simultaneously so that we can address these types of discipline like climate change in multi-directional approach. These are the 4 regional science museums. In fact, we have the provision of developing 5 regional museums in Baroda, in Rajkot, Patan, Bhuj, and Bhavnagar. So out of 5, 4 regional science museums at Rajkot, Patan, Bhuj, and Bhavnagar at almost stages of completion. So by end of this 2020, so we will be complete, and the government will be like to open this infrastructure as a science tourism destination for the state and for the nations. So all these 4 centers that has been developed within an area of 10 acres of land and around 90 crores of project cost. And it's a very unique advantage for the children, for the community members, for the different teachers, for the science education, for environmental awareness, climate change activities. All lot of things can be done in this campus. So unique topics are there, galleries are there, and none of the gallery, none of the exhibit are in duplicate in this 4 gallery, like machine engineering, house top works, world of glass and ceramics, life science, to Nobel Prize gallery, nanotechnology, energy galleries, optics, lot of things, unique innovations are going through these things. So like this, I also talked about 33 unique community science centers with 3 regional community science centers and 30 district community science centers. And this month also we are opening 3 community science centers in this series. So as a average, around 12,000 activities in different science streams that has been carried out by these science coordinators, and giving benefit around 50,000 to 1 lakh of beneficiary on the direct basis. So this, in addition to these activities also, so Guj Coast has also given a financial support to numbers of educational institutions, organizations, university department for conducting science seminars, symposia, conference, workshops, training programs on different aspects of this cutting edge of science and technology, including climate change, global warming, and these things. So in the 1920, last year, we have 275 proposals. We supported around 122 lakh. That includes 123 state level programs, 134 national level programs, and 18 international conference with among our teachers, faculties, researchers, scientists, and the common public. So in addition to this awareness activities and generation, we also promote the hardcore research for empowering our knowledge and broadening our horizons. So lot of under the government of Gujarat has implemented the science technology innovation policy in 2018. As a part of that policy, we are promoting 2 schemes. One is for research support grant for the academic institutions, And second one is it demonstration of technology and pilot deployment in the civic for the civic amenities that things. These two schemes are in operations, and for all research support as well as the pilot deployment, there is a provision of providing 50 lakh of rupees for proposal, for research proposal and pilot, and which is now in taking place because all the research of things it takes 2 to 3 years times, and pilot is also coming. So by this 2020, end of 2020, we are able to see the real pilot deployments as well as some very new and innovation technologies that has been developed. And I am very happy to say here that we have out of our first cycle proposal 16, around 25%, 35% are hardcore projects which are including the climate change, the energy management, different development of new materials, involvement of that digital technology like artificial intelligence, robotics type of things to change or monitor our climate so that we can reduce the risk of climate change. This is the policy, science, technology, innovation policy. It has a very concrete role in the advanced technology development, so that we have to come for alternatives, energy conservation, storage, so that we have reduced our dependency on the nature, as well as we have to reduce the footprint, carbon footprint, which is the main cause of the climate change. So this has been there. In fact, this policy document also it was started during the tenure as a secretary to Department of Science and Technology, H.S. Haidar sir, and now this is in the implementations. In addition to make this research activity in a very high end and very at the par with the cutting edge technology at elsewhere in the world, so Government of Gujarat through DST, Guj Coast, we have about 28 supercomputer lab establishment in engineering and R&D institutions for high-end research. So they are preparing the surveillance data system, big data analysis, machine learning, where all these environmental data are being implemented and being carried out, and the computer simulations models can be taken care of this thing, out of this thing. So these are in the very different institutions. And I hope that this institution, this collaborative effort will definitely come to the best part as a mission to our action for the climate change. So with all this infrastructure, now I am coming to the communication, climate change communication part with our students, teachers, common public, common people, even the members from the media. So before starting the things, I would like to discuss about the science of climate change, because unless until we have to understand to the experience to them, to our children, because they are the change maker, they are the future citizens, and they are the our citizens who is taking our state and a nation to a different height. So we have to give them the real science part of this thing. Get them understand what is the root cause and how they can change, become a part of this mission. So like science of climate change, we have to give them a clear understanding what is the role of our carbon cycle, our water cycles, all the heat transfer, what is the greenhouse gases, what is the root causes, like all the illustrations, all the leaflet, the infographics materials we created. We have a lot of workshop activities to train the teacher first, and through teachers we come to the thousands of the students, so that they can understand the basic root cause of climate change, what is the responsibility, what are the consequences, and how we can be a change maker to this mission. So with that thing, we also have all our centers have this very fundamental and this very illustrious, we can say as the foundation type of book, like our Honorable PM, who has written this book, Convenient Action, and which advocate that climate change which is a great challenge of the time, and that adverse impact, which is only to be resolved through a mass movement with the multi-stakeholders, and which is the need of the hour. So climate change is not only a government driven action plan, it is also very important that we have to put our community members, the community problems is also in the path, so that everybody should be a part, should be very clearly understand about the issues and concerns, and through them our policy, our practices can be achieved. We have the another book with Honorable PM Sir, which is also forwarded, released during the Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam when he was our president, and he's that great scientist, which is that book which also talked about the how the Gujarat response to climate change, and what are the areas where our program is going on, and how best we can contribute to continue that missions that is created by that initiated and also taken care of by our Honorable Prime Minister. So the Climate Change Department, Government of Gujarat, in addition to all institutions that our Honorable Principal Secretary Sir has mentioned, like premier institution like IIT Gandhinagar, Central University of Gujarat to MS University, other state universities. So all the action is like a collaboration, communication, and celebrations of this success of the programs. So we are happy, Guj Coast being a society under the DST Government of Gujarat. We are very privileged to have collaborative programs and outreach activities with Climate Change Department on a regular basis. So the programs which is conceptualized by the CCD, Climate Change Department, and implemented by JEDA. So Guj Coast is a contributor to that one, with our network, with our participation of our community science center coordinators, volunteers, teachers, the institutions. So all these programs taken have received a very encouraging response from the students at very remote and very rural basis also, and through which our message, our mission is being reached unreached people places. So all these programs and outreach activities focused on very informal community-based learning. It is not like the same thing we are teaching in a different way. It's a totally storytelling, different storytelling method, approach, and the follow-up actions also, which is intended to enliven their imaginations, their participation, their creativity, and develop the spirit of inquiry, especially in young minds, which is also otherwise the method of science, because we are not talking about any magic here. So unless until they get through the problem, practice these different types of scientific methods, and collect the data, analyze that one, and coming to the conclusion. So with this type of things, I am very happy that through board program, through our teacher training program, so about 1 lakh student or more than that students, they enrolled for our National Children's Science Congress, which is very significant program, because this program is meant for 10 to 17 years of students, age of student, and who develop a design a project, research project with their availability resources. So improving awareness and understanding on climate change and creating solution to facilitate access to information on a changing climate are the key winning for public support for climate related policies and practices. Through education, through schools, university, and other education service providers, training like courses for teachers, seminars, webinars, e-learning, for networking like conference, workshops, sharing of platforms, community of practices, networks of excellency, with technical assistance from the expert missions, tuning or attention of a group risk, or some sort of special programs in the institution like IIT Gandhinagar or CUG or University Department. So we have developed a lot of IEC materials and capacity building power capacity among the communicators, among the coordinators, among the teachers, and which we also started continue in a very serious basis, because suppose tomorrow is our national independence, our Independence Day, and another 3 days after that one, on 19th we are having this World Photography Day. and we have already organized that program with giving this very best climate change pictures of the locality from the students, which can be showed as a digital exhibition on the latter stage. So with these programs, so Guj Coast is developed a lot of resource materials in terms of IC materials, which would be used for the capacity building in the different stages. Then the next one is how climate change, we have to bring that literacy, like our general literacy, scientific literacy. We'd also have to develop that literacy on climate change, which would be the tool to combat climate change and its impacts. So the goals of the climate change education and this climate change literacy or outreach, which includes like that learners has an understanding of basic science of climate change and climate activities, that people and organizations can take informed decisions on the particular topic. Then at our behavioral changes to degree, so that we can adapt to the different scientific attitude, so that will not causing that natural process. Like the new normal practices now we are following during this COVID-19 situation, pandemic situation, that how best we can not that much of dependence on the other things, so that with minimum requirement we can maintain our day-to-day life, on which we can reduce the carbon footprint. So with all these activities, we have the three take-home message, like everybody talking about that global warming and that in temperature, then how every bit of warming is matter to us, to our society, to our agriculture, to our business, to our health systems, to our overall development. That how every years also matter, because we are getting a lots of statistics, like by 2030 the temperature would be like this one, or 2050 like we have to have that type of things. So now once we have that computer simulation of climate change impact on our society, on our development or our health or our progress, for that things how every years matters. Like 2030 is our sustainable completion of our sustainable goal practices mission. So now we are 2020. So another 10, how we have to develop, and how much progress we have to take, and what are the gray areas where we have to take a decision. And in fact, 2015, when this LTG missions are started, Guj Coast Science City and with the Government of India, we have developed this National Children's Science Congress activity theme, like how science, technology, and innovation will be responsible for the sustainable development, which is also having a something on climate change and global warming. So the third point is how every choices that matters, like the way we are now living with this virus, with living with this pandemic situations, how we have to make a different choice, so that our development will be sustainable with inclusiveness of everybody. So like the broad areas for our state, like this climate change concerns, like in the agriculture, because Gujarat is a state having a very different eco-regions, very different types of biodiversity, different types of rainfall, annual rainfall, and these things, landscape, so that how agriculture, water, health, environment, forest and biodiversity, coastal regions, and vulnerable communities, how these areas has to be addressed through this climate change impact in the coming age, in which we have our action plan, like I have mentioned in the earlier slides, that we have both education, research, and outreach, awareness, and communication. So all for agricultural project, water project, health, environment, forest, biodiversity, coastal region, vulnerable communities, we have our STI policy, science, technology, innovation policy, where we have identifying the problem statements pertaining to these areas, and we are giving some sort of grant for continuing that research and getting that new knowledge, new experience, new methods, new process, so that things also goes as our outreach material on the next stage. So all the things that department, the council, with the prime advice from the climate change department that has been identified and that is being taken care of. So in the policy, exactly what we have discussed, which our theme is on agriculture, in animal husbandry, our education, our health sector, and industry. All the four sectoral effects that has been very clearly earmarked in the climate change, in the science, technology, and innovation policy. So the policy takes care about the both identifying the problems where the climate change is a concern, global warming is a concern, our environmental pollution is a concern, where waste management is a concern, and finding out the right and very possible solution to that, so that that can be taken care of. And our state can be independent of all these problems, challenges, so that our scientists, our community, they can be the journey of the success path. So with this word, the Guj Post, with all the institutions here, only the community science centers are not playing the role. Here also we have the support of premier institutions like IIT Gandhinagar, or our universities like Gujarat University, Saurashtra University, SP University, MS University, all the premier institutions like Dhirubhai Ambani Institute of Information Technology, PDPU, all the institutions are having our research project on different domains of this science domains. So they are giving the real knowledge and real experiences which can be used as the state. So as we discussed, we have a series of flagship program for children, for the teacher, for the community members. So here the approach is celebrating the days, celebrating the weeks, celebrating the fortnights, like that, month type of things. And we have fortunate to have a design a scientific calendar which we have earmarked all 65 days of science celebration. Maybe it's a birthday of eminent scientists like Albert Einstein or Charles Darwin or C.V. Raman, or to development of different technologies like our discovery of a penicillin or antibiotics, or the space technology like Hubble telescope, or some mission to Mars, or that type of programs like ISRO and NASA. So we have designed every day is activity for the children, for the teachers, for the media people, for the other members of the society who has to be a part of that things. And on that day, with that theme, so we can integrate the local issues with the global platform, and also to understand to bring that global concern, global issues like ozone hole depletion, or that ecological reducing the ecological footprint, or sustainable development goals, or that type of environment themes to the community, or to the children, or to the classroom. So I am giving here the table of this just one celebration day, World Environment Day, from the last 10 year 2020 to 2010 to 2020, like how the themes are very pertinent to our nature, our environment, and the climate change, like time of nature. This time is time for nature, because we have to reduce our dependency so that nature can prosper, beat air pollution, so that our greenhouse gases can be reduced, beat plastic pollution. It is also cause to the climate change, connecting people to nature, go wild for life, 7 billion dreams, one planet, consume with care, like this thing. So how these themes are very important to take a conscious decision, the way we have to live, and how with the way we have to nurture our nature. So similarly, another significant day for climate change is like a World Ozone Day, which is being celebrated every year on 16th September as a mark to the signing of our very historical protocol, Kyoto Protocol, for the depletion of the ozone, reducing the ozone depleting substance for the cause of world ozone layer. So like every 16 year from 2010 to 2020, these are the themes, and it's on a regular basis in a very new spirit, new activity, new module, new outcome, new follow-up, all the things like this way. So this year also we are going to celebrate this 16th September in a big way across the state, with many schools, though the schools are closed, through webinar, through the outreach activities on online mode, competition. So the theme is ozone and climate. So last year we have a very good celebration with climate change department, JEDA, in the Science City and all community science centers, 30 years of healing. We have successfully complete that story of that ozone hole. Now we have to also successfully minimize this risk of climate change so that our society would be healthy and it would be prosperous. So like the themes like caring for life under the sun, ozone and climate, restored by the world of restored by a world united, 30 years of healing of ozone together, ozone layer protection, all these things related to climate change and global warming and our action to the environment. Also, these activities is very uniquely and very student participated, like this, the board game, the snake and ladder story. So we have this board game of different aspects of climate change, ozone layer, or energy conservation type of things, where the students are very actively participate, and they can go with a memory, and they can go with a promise, and they can go with a commitment that yes, with this game we learned a lot of things very informal way, which would be which will be giving an inspiration for their lifelong learning. And once they are in this group, 10 to 17 years of age group, they are learning these things, and when they are the very responsible citizens, and I think that time nobody should, that is not requirement for further learning or teaching. So this is the program where we have this big amphitheater. In amphitheater, I think this is the celebration of one Ozone Day, Environment Day, with our Principal Secretary CSJ Haider sir as the chief guest at this program, where he has given that address to the students. The students and young people today, they are aware the needs to protect the environment, because a series of programs they are participating, and they are getting all the real knowledges. When they asked to the list and the issue the most concern of them, so one issue that features highly on their agenda is climate change. So it's a very good research output, and we are preparing a research paper also and submit to the for our climate change department, that how students they are concerned about this type of strategies, this type of challenges, and how they are taking it as a research material also, so that once they are through in their education, in their age wise also, and they should give the concerned behavior for this mitigations. The second thing is like the message, like protect the earth for our children, like for sustainable development. Each of our outreach program also brings awareness on the environment with its diversity of life, its beauty, and its resources, all of which enhance the quality of life for present, future, and generation. We have designed a 30 days program, residential program for the toppers of standard 10 board examinations, who were stayed with us, our faculties, and within that 30 days of internship program, we take them all major ecoregions and discuss with them lot of things which is related to which is pertaining to the our environment depletion or climate change or wildlife destruction, lot of things, and there on the spot they have to create, and they have to show their consequences, that how best they can be the change maker to protect all these things. So all these things, this is going as a imbibing a culture among the children for our community members. So we call on all members of the society to join us in this global movement, so that will be help to build up a world fit for our children through upholding our commitments to the climate change action plans and their remedial supports. So we'd like to move forward with the multi-generational, multidisciplinary vision, working together with the government, with the policymakers and the youth to redesign for the climate resilience for the state, for the country, for the whole world also. Together we can work for a holistic education and climate change curriculum and outreach, so that today's youth are not only the climate change literate, but are equipped with the tools to act and to react also. and we all are willing to make a difference with the guidance and the support and the directives of Climate Change Department, Government of Gujarat, Government of India, or even every global platform. So we not only we are alone in these things in our approach, we have lots of local institutional linkages for the capacity building, starting from Institute of Engineers to IEEE, IMSA, Gujarat Science Academy, Nehru Yuva Kendra, Indian Science Congress Association, municipal commissioners, Earth Care, the state level like Education Department, Tribal Development, Climate Change Department, Industry, Rashtriya Madhyamik Shala Abhijan, Information Department, Agriculture, Health, Cottage Industry. That national, we are also having collaborations with Niti Aayog, National Council for Science, Technology, Communication, Vigyan Prasar, National Council for Science Museum, Department of Biotechnology, INSA, ISRO, Intel, CIPAM. At the international scale, we are also following or having the supports, collaborations with UNESCO, UNICEF, WIPO, National Science Teachers Association with the USA, CBD, Conventional of Biodiversity, Aztec, NASA, Nobel organizations, and so many. So all the things we are linkaging, giving the platform with a linkage from local to global issues and from the global to working with the grassroots levels. With this, we together with our children, community member, our council, the climate change department, the government, state government, Government of India, everybody, every stakeholders, if, with their support, participation, their guidance, their collaborations. So definitely we can make a difference for the climate change for the times to come. So with this word, I once again thanks to the Climate Change Department, Government of Gujarat, special Sri S.J. Haidar sir, Principal Secretary, Climate Change Department, and the Joint Secretary, Mukesh Shah, Technical Advisor, Setal Bhai, and all the faculties and the institution for the WRI and all our educational institutions, our community science centers, our Department of Science and Technology, Government of Gujarat, our secretaries, Sri Harit Shukla sir, for their kind support, encouragement, and inspiration for taking this mission and making our children climate resilient for the future. With these words, I thank you, and together we can make a difference. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sahu, for very in-depth information regarding the activities of the Council of Science and Technology, and a very commendable job being done at various spectrum of subjects as well as various spectrum of the beneficiaries, beginning from the school-going children up to the old age people in terms of creating awareness. A very big thank you to you again on behalf of my own and behalf of all of us here at the Climate Change Department. Thanks once again. May I now call upon Ms. Jnanada Deshpande, the Director of Communications at the World Resources Institute, who is also an authority on communication and extension of the climate change activities. Ms. Jnanada, please.
Namaste, everyone. I hope I'm audible. It was an excellent presentation by Dr. Sahu, and I'm grateful that he has set a very wide canvas for my few minutes of presentation that I'm going to have. I start by welcoming everyone and all the dignitaries and senior officials who are present for this webinar. Also, thanks to the audience that we have multiple responses coming in the chat window. Dr. Sahu gave us a kind of a broad outline of what the community science centers in Gujarat are doing and the kind of foundational work that is happening there. I'm just going to take from that place and see whether the climate change department at the state and the national level and the think tanks and the research organizations like WRI, and there are so many others, national as well as international, how we can bridge this conversation to kind of empower our citizens to understand more about climate change. I'm going to share my screen now. One second. I'll appreciate, one second, just I hope it is visible now. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, kindly full screen it. It's visible.
Yeah.
Full screen.
It's full screen now?
No.
Is it? Yeah, it is now.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Shah. So, I'm just going to go towards a bigger picture from an on-the-ground action that Mr. Dr. Sahu has explained to us, to what kind of challenges India is facing. And there are innumerable challenges, but I'll take a couple of challenges to see what is the kind of a world that we have inherited for our children today. So India has 80% of the world's population, but our water is only 4% of the water resources we have currently. Another major challenge in India is that, yes, of course, our villages are now electrified, but a reliable power supply is still missing for the larger population. And we are still struggling whenever there is a storm or a cyclone. Recently, there was a cyclone on the coast of Maharashtra, and as a result, we have many villages that are now stranded without any electric supply. So on one hand, during COVID times, we want our children to study using mobile phones or laptops or the Google Meets, but we do not have reliable power supply. It's a challenge that we have to. I'm not calling them as problems, I'm calling them as challenges, because every challenge then can be met with some kind of solution. India also faces a challenge of, say, air pollution. In the top 20 most polluted cities in India, the 14 cities are top 20 cities in the world, the 14 cities are in India. There are many premature deaths of young children, of babies that are caused by air pollution. And people who are less with resources, staying in the slums, staying unfortunately near the garbage dumps, which is continuously burning, they are suffering the worst in these air quality challenges. So these are the kind of, one can understand what are the challenges that we have inherited. But along with these challenges, there are other kinds of challenges that India has, like poverty, discrimination on the basis of gender, or race, or religion, or migration. We all saw during COVID-19, poor people were all walking back to home. Poverty is the main reason for behind all these things. But there is a categorical difference between the first three challenges I said and this next set of challenges. So what is the difference between these two challenges? So the second set of challenge, we call them as the wicked set of problems, because there is no one direct solution that can fix the solution for, say, discrimination or gender inequality. Men and women in our society do not have the same status at times. We cannot fix this problem with any magic, man. There is no easy solution. We need the whole understanding of history, sociology, economics, behavior change. Sometimes we have to pass the laws and wait for the legal implementation of those laws. So the second set of problems demands everything. But what is the difference between the first and the second set of problems? And the first set of problems, at least some part of that problem has a very clear evidence-based scientific pathways to solve them. We know how to measure air pollution. We know what are the sources of air pollution. We know what actually contributes to the air pollution. We know how to manage them, mitigate them, control them, and make air quality better. We might not know that with that clarity any solution to solve poverty, but we definitely know the pathway which is absolutely evidence-based to solve the question of, say, water conservation or air pollution or the kind of challenges of this nature that we are facing. And we can call these challenges, the first set of challenges, many of them are these days categorized as under the climate challenges. And so there is a behavior change that is required. There is an understanding of sociology and economics that is required. But the driver of the solution comes from science. And science enables us and provides us with a kind of pathway to understand these mitigation challenges. There is another thing that happens, and many of the world studies, many of the things that you can see, that many a times, if this first set of problems are solved in an equitable manner, are solved using the basic principles of equality and equity, we can also find and go closer to the solving the second set of problems. And in this entire regard, what Dr. Sahu was saying, this entire network of community science center, I see it playing a very major role for understanding how to solve these problems, what is in our control, how we can act and empower our citizens to address climate change. These community science centers have a major role to play. Because currently, as you know, you must have seen in all these last 4 months, our media has not done a great job of telling us about COVID-19. It has scared us, frightened us, given us gory details. Watching news is a kind of getting more stressed after that 30-minute slot. But community science centers, on the other hand, have a possibility to develop as trusted places for scientific information that could be about climate change, that could be about pandemic. And therefore, I'm just going to take over from where Dr. Sahu has left us with the information and say what are the further possibilities and why we should nurture these possibilities, in what way environmental institutions like WRI, where I'm working at the moment, can be partners in that process. So our Constitution of India, I mean, all of you know, all of you are already well studied, that our Article 51AH says that the sense of scientific temper to be cultivated in citizens is very important and relevant. And the spirit of inquiry, and that leads to reforms. And it's very important, therefore, to kind of look at not only these kinds of community science centers are the centers for understanding how science and climate change are going to work, but these also become the centers where we can nurture the spirit of inquiry. Because of this spirit of inquiry, the fairness, equality, democracy, all these values become part and parcel of that education. So I see that the climate change education or the climate change communication is not only about managing air pollution or water conservation alone, but how equitably we can distribute water, how can we give the benefits of good air quality to even poor citizens of India. All these questions are linked and we cannot separate one from the other, but we can definitely start with the one and aim at solving the other challenges and addressing other challenges. One of the good things about India, and this I have picked up from the climate change survey that was done. It is a little dated survey. It was done in 2012 to understand how Indian mind reacts to climate change. Let me tell you, 70% of Indians believe that climate change affects their daily living. As against in the US, if I give you the counter numbers of 2019, 21% were alarmed by the climate change, 30% are concerned about climate change, but there is a larger majority of percentage, even in the developed country like United States, where 9% of them do not believe in climate change at all. Fortunately, in India, we have the larger segment of society. They understand what is the impact of climate change on their daily lives. Indians also believe that the scientists are the most trusted sources. And then comes news media, and then comes the environment. 54% percentage of Indians said that they are willing to make changes and they want government to reduce global warming, even if there is a little bit of cost attached to it. It is important for for India to kind of deal with the climate change. Majorities favor the policies to waste less fuel or water or energy. And the last point is 70% favored a national program to teach Indians about global warming. I think this is the kind of learning from that survey done by Yale University is very useful if we are going to create a kind of a mass movement or the mass understanding or reaching towards a larger portion of our citizenship who wants to understand, who is hungry for the knowledge about global warming and climate change. Recently, in December 2019, IBM did a report and 89%, now even the percentage for 2012 has increased. More number of Indians now believe that the climate change affects their economic status and the local economies are hampered by the climate change. I think there is a lot of learning for everyone to kind of understand from this data, what can we do to give our citizens a kind of handle, what Dr. Sahu mentioned, that they should not only react, but to act on their in their local environment, in their local communities on climate change. And this is not just the one side thing. This is not just about what problems India is facing or what kind of desires Indian citizens have in understanding climate change. But at the same time, our government, knowing how important climate change is and how important mitigation of climate issues is, has made some commitments and global commitments. India has made bold commitments in Paris. We have taken challenges to reduce our emissions. We are signatories of the Bonn Challenge, where we have said the millions of hectares of land that is desertified and it is rendered, I mean, there is no forest, deforested land, India will rejuvenate that land, and we are signatories for the Bonn Challenge. We are also participant and played a major role in establishing the International Solar Alliance. And there are ambitious programs that the government of India is running, like to develop 100 smart cities or to achieve 175 gigawatt of renewable power by 2022. We want to restore 13 million hectares of degraded land and reduce emissions intensity. So while the citizens understand that these are the problems we are facing, our government is not lagging behind. Rather, they have taken extremely visionary steps to deal with climate change, made commitments, and is now working towards achieving those goals. So there is a national mandate, there is a constitutional mandate, and there is a desire in the hearts of citizens. It gives us an opportunity to look at institutions like these community science centers or schools, what else they can do besides learning. And I'm going to just like open this with a couple of more insights that what we have learned in WRI. So we learned in WRI that even any change one would like to make, people don't make change just because they read something in the paper or the research paper. So there has to be a research at the basis of everything. We have to count it and then create a prototype where we change it. And then we go to the larger partnerships and go to the ministries and say, let's scale it. And I think something that we can do about what we are doing as pilots. And from there, we can leverage that to change and scale the impact of the actions on the ground. In WRI, we are dealing with the 5 topical areas, which are energy, landscape restoration, planning of sustainable cities, climate mitigation, where we advance solutions for the low carbon development, and climate resilience practice, where we help government, civil society, private sector to develop our adaptation solution. So this is happening at the think tank or the research or at the policy level. How do we bring what we have studied and understood there to the common knowledge? And COVID-19 unfortunately gave us that opportunity to link what is there in the research papers to bring it in our day-to-day understanding. And we started looking at issues such as, we started connecting the dots between the importance of the biodiversity. If you cut the forest and if there is no maintenance of biodiversity, then of course it is going to hamper the well-being of human society. We understood the importance of creating livelihoods at the local and rural levels, where agriculture as well as plantation as well as restoration is going to play a major role. We also learned during this time the importance of restoring landscape. We always knew about it, but COVID-19 make it apparent that unless we restore the landscape and create them as the source of our rural livelihoods, we cannot progress. Otherwise, everyone from the rural area will have to migrate to the cities. We also understood the importance of energy access, and WRI does a lot of work in mapping and creating energy maps for the electricity access and identifying where exactly government can pay attention to kind of create far better, the quality of life indices for the population, especially supplying the rural health center, the public health centers, the PHCs, with guaranteed electricity supply, changes the mortality rate of that particular area. So we are doing a lot of research, but during this time, it was easier for everyone to connect the dots and see the significance. And in this connecting the dots, we see that there is a necessity for citizens to understand how all these things are managed and what role they can play. And can we create these kinds of conversations where citizens can actively take part and connect the dots to the larger area of climate change, to the scientific knowledge and their lives, how they can connect these three things to kind of make solutions or find out solutions. Last point is also the importance of natural infrastructure. If you don't have plants in the cities, then your water and air quality in the cities also gets hampered. And now we know that when COVID-19 made breathing difficult for us, what is the importance of ventilation? What is the importance of clean air? And if we want to have clean air in our cities, in our towns, in our villages, we have a role to play. And therefore, what we learn in science and what we face in our daily lives are not two disjunct realities, but it is a necessity now to bring these two realities closer, and we really need to act on them. So, in any communication, and there are enormous amount of communication activities that are already happening, and Dr. Sahu showed us how the calendar works, how 5th June is celebrated, or how the 16th of September will be celebrated. So there are three things usually in any communication activity. There is engagement with the multiple stakeholders. There are key messages and communication. And there are convenings or creating platforms like this Zoom webinar or the WebEx webinars, and bringing people together to see the kind of point of views. Looking at this, I'm suggesting a few things and a few directions in which we can look at. And we are talking to all the officials in the climate change department in Gujarat. There are also stalwarts officials. These are some of the suggestions. These are not all the suggestions. There could be multiple solutions. But since already now people are using their smartphones, and the kids can prepare small films. In Maharashtra, the Kirloskar Engineering comes up with this film festival called as Vasundhara Film Festival. And it has become very popular because the films convey something that a lot of long lectures cannot convey. And they conduct a film festival. We can even have participation of our Doordarshan in kind of conducting these kinds of film festivals. Also, we always call children scientists or young scientists or bacha scientists. But can children also be now green scientists? Can they think actively about the climate and the climate change and integrate that learning in their science learning? There's a third kind of experiment I would like to share. that many of these new technologies like IoT, which is Internet of Things, and artificial intelligence, there are multiple collaborations are possible. Here you can see this is the lab. This is the picture from the lab in Vigyan Ashram, which is near Pune, in a place called Pabal. And they have collaborated with the Fab Lab in MIT, and rural children who are 10th pass and not scored much percentage, they are trained on IoT, Internet of Things. This technology is going to come and become democratized in no time. So can we create these kinds of partnership where the state of the art technology is also introduced to our children, to our future generation, to women, and they can do something about it. And I said women very responsibly because you can see this other picture. This is when I was working in Jammu and Kashmir. This is one of the small village in Jammu where women who are not even literate learned about the solar dryers, and they started drying their own excess produce, and they became independent and they achieve food security in a very, very small manner in their own geography. So science and technologies can create these kinds of solutions, and we can actually take them to the local level. The last 2 points I'm going to make is that behavior change is a major aspect. And through this community science center, can we encourage something where we bring the culture as well as science and climate change together? So not only the plastic ban or free plastic thing, but can we do our Navratri without plastic? Can we do our Christmas without plastic? Can we do our New Year without plastic? Something that humans have impulsively liked to do, can it be done without plastic? Can it be done without bottled water? So this is the kind of small challenges which are the behavior change challenges, and a communication strategy can be developed around these kinds of behavior change challenges. I'm going to make the last point is that what has happened all along, the future of our country, the future of our nation was the topic of people who understand everything, the think tanks, the scientists, the top layer of everything. But if we start teaching futurology at our community science center and they become part of our school curriculum, children will know that they are makers of the future. And once they have this knowledge that they are the makers of the future, they can make they can think of so many different ideas in which they can change how they are going to participate in the world that is unfolding. And yesterday, actually, I read this article by Shiv Vishwanathan in Delhi. Oh, I have given the link over here and later it could be shared, where he says that learning about futurology will help democracy because it will strengthen the democratic values. So these are few possibilities from the domain of communication. You can approach this as a communication strategy and can develop these in our science centers or through our policies and through our curriculums. And tomorrow is 15th of August. And so I want to conclude that the freedom is knowledge. Knowledge is not only power, but knowledge can give you freedom. When your actions are inspired by knowledge, they can actually help us achieve the true freedom. And in this whole context of science education and climate change, we have to continuously remember that it is finally the ground level action that is going to help us truly achieve the freedom that we intend to. Thank you. These are some references, and if somebody wants, I can share these references. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Before we end today, we have a couple of questions from our esteemed audience. I'll request to ask his question.
Good morning, ma'am. Thank you so much for this excellent presentation. Great presentation. My question was, ma'am, just like you said that there is a scientific studies already been done in climate change, but the other mediums of communication, like let's say short films or cinema, have not been so effectively used. Let's say patriotism has been overused in cinema, but why why can't we come up with solutions for climate change or communicating common people about climate change?
My teacher, she was also from Gujarat. She used to tell me, "जब से उठे रे भाई तब से सवेरा." Abhi, we have not done it in the past, which is true. Suppose we have not done it, but today, it's not true. We have not completely done it. Some films, some instill some values, but we are so, India is an entertainment driven place, no? So when we see even Shakuntala Devi's film, more than mathematics or family drama gets captured. But now is a possibility. I think instead of saying what we have not done, we can even start now. And I see a great potential in looking at these kinds of effects and impacts, and we can learn from it.
Mr. Prasad, you can ask your question. Dr. K.D. Prasad. Dr. Neeraj Sharma. Neeraj Sharma, you can ask your question, or Pariksha Joshi. Ramya.
Hello. Yeah. Hello. So this question is for Sahu. So my question was just about whether the community science centers have played a role, developing new career pathways for students or introducing any new courses in universities, for example. Because I think it can be a very important platform to help students become aware of new pathways that they can take up, career pathways in this direction.
I did not understand. This question was for Dr. Sahu.
Yes. Actually, as we have discussed, community science center is not for any formal education. I think it is much more about to entertainment, drama, putting the story, putting the example, setting the demonstration type of things. But do we do the formal education part in a very informal way? So we don't encouraging to start a course, certificate course or a diploma course through this type of subject or this through community science center. That was not the mandate. It will be translate that science of that particular subject, topic, or whatever things in a very informal setup. Like Madam has mentioned that how we can put it as a picture, as a film, or theatric experiences, or some sort of demonstrations. That is possible. In fact, we do encourage all the students, especially for the young students, that they can also take all this particular subject or particular program as a case study, and they can register as a even like a PhD study or something like that. They can get their PhD, like how this informal education based education that be helpful for achieving the target, or making the regular formal education in a very simpler way or accessible or something like that way. But we don't believe in creating or converting that particular course material for the formal mode. This thing, in fact, we do give a certificate for every activity participant, for as a resource person or as an active participant, as a contributor. We acknowledge, and it has been certified also. But still, we are a little bit differ from your point that we will not go for any formal course or formal certification type of this thing.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Actually, we are running out of the time slot, and we have many interesting questions. But I think it is now time to conclude for the day. And on behalf of the thank Dr. Sahu and Madam Deshpande for making their excellent presentation. And entire recording of this webinar will be available on our YouTube channel. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Shetal, and thank you your team also. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It was a
We'll
great
work with
opportunity.
you.
Yes,
We'll work
yes,
with
please
you.
do connect. Please do connect.
Sure,
I'm very, very eager to work. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Our Principal Secretary, Haider sir, Director Jida Vijay Shah sir, our Joint Secretary Mukesh Shah sir, and OSD Patil sir. This is the fifth webinar on our climate change and COVID-19 webinar series. On behalf of Climate Change Department, I thanks Dr. Narottam Sahu, Member Secretary, Post, who gave a nice presentation and in-depth information. I also thank Ms. Dayananda Deshpande, Director Communication, WRI India, and also thanks all participants who actively participate in this webinar. Thanks to all. Thank you.